Hello, hello, salud. I am the Rasta Witch. Here's where we learn the way of the Yansui Rasta, which is to say, my kind of Ital. Please subscribe and begin your own kind of Yansui witchcraft. All roads lead to Rome. Home. Okay, now obviously we will look at the Judge card. Roman numeral 20, the penultimate card. Okay, we started the Fool's Journey with the Fool card at Roman numeral 0. The Fool was just an apprentice, like a baby, a beginner. All the first cards in the journey was across the abyss, pure. And as we move through the numbers, we cross the abyss, forming our archetypes, and which you can see accumulated in the Strength card. Then we bridge the self with the archetypes. Then we set up our relationships with all the aspects of our life, like death, the hermit, our convictions, justice, the will of life, how to find solutions, the devil, deconstructing the old into the new, the sun, the moon, and the stars, etc. But now is the telling moment to define our character. What and how will we do? The what, the how, and the why built up into this very moment. You've graduated from college, you have your degree, now what are you going to do? Perhaps the best example of this is the speech of Haile Selassie before the League of Nations, the opening of the second Sill. Italy, under the fascist rule of Mussolini, went into Ethiopia to take the land from them. Ethiopia being the last state not to be colonized by the white man. In this effort to revive the Roman Empire, Mussolini started this bloody war. The today defunct League of Nations, today replaced by the United Nations, was supposed to be the world police, policing international law. The Italians had illegal weapons, and they were fighting against the laws of the League that the League supposedly was supposed to enforce, and was going to destroy all of Ethiopia's ancient buildings, the animals and the soldiers and civilians, everything. So the Emperor of Ethiopia, Haile Selassie, was decided to go into exile, and the Italians took over his country. But before this was the famous speech of Haile Selassie. Haile Selassie gave the Italians, or the League of Nations rather, the chance to act, to stop the Italians, to do what they were supposed to, else why have a League of Nations in the first place? He said the famous line from the speech, "History will tell." Will they dare enforce their laws? Unfortunately, they chose the path of cowardice and looked the other way, as history now tells. So Selassie went into exile, and the League of Nations fell apart. Soon after started World War II. And after 5 years in exile, Haile Selassie finally gathered enough help from fellow Africans and the British to kick the Italians out of Ethiopia and to continue his reign as emperor on the throne in Ethiopia. Not long after all this, the United Nations began, and Haile Selassie being the only head of state to address both the League of Nations and the United Nations, gave a speech welcoming in the UN as mankind's only hope for world peace. This history tells us perfectly the meaning of this card. Again, it's like the college student that has just graduated with a degree. Now what are they going to do? History will tell. Let's look at the Egyptian tarot card for this card. The Judgment, as you can see, is not when the dead were killed. The Judgment is not the killing in this card. It is the rising from the dead, like the card's called. Rise. It's not called the Judgment card in Egypt. It's called the rising from the dead. The judgment of what the dead will do after awakening. Time will tell what they do. Key word for this card is awakening. You woke up from a nightmare that made your situation obvious. Now what are you going to do? Karma will judge your actions. It's not the dogma, it's the lifestyle. There are many paths to the place of awakening. Significant events, meetings with key people, conversations, books, encounters, dreams. Everyone has their own story to tell. Let's look at the Thoth deck. Notice it's not called the Judgment card, it's called the Eon. In the guidebook, it says it can also be called the Angel or the Last Judgment. Above in the top of the card, you can see here is Nut in the shape of an omega, the goddess of the stars. And in the middle, we have her mate, Hadit. And behind them, representing the new eon, the next generation, is their son, Horus, sitting back there on the chair. Horus, as the new era, holds his left hand open, but turned down, meaning it is only just begun. At the feet of his father, Hadit, is the card's corresponding Hebrew character, Shin. See, there's Shin, but you can see it's right there. See? Shin has the top through at the top of Shin there's 3 yods. The word yod meaning sperm. And inside each yod is a newborn. And all around is the fire of the sun of the new day. Elemental fire corresponding to this card as well. Let's look at the Sephiroth deck. Here we see the Urias cobra, a complex symbol of protection and destruction. We see the cobra's fangs. And remember, the meaning of the Hebrew character Shin is teeth. Cosmic power ready for action, ready to judge based on what you choose to do. And we see Shin in the creative fires of the moment. What moment will you create? Let's look at the chart. The pathway of judgment connects number 8, Chod, which is thinking and intellectuality, with number 10, Malkut, which is manifested form. So it connects thinking and results, the results of what we created with our thinking. History will tell. Okay, so now let's look at the Crow's Magic card. Oh, I really like this one. It says at the bottom, awaken, Metamorphosis. See the butterfly just out of the cocoon? This card shows the new doors that have just opened to you. Do you clearly understand purpose? The guidebook says awakening, leaving the cocoon, growing wings. See the eagle ready to judge like the fangs of the cobra? And the eagle is in the colors of the moon and the high priestess. Will you remember what you have learned in the fool's journey? This card will support you when you hear the trumpets of the angel. When you hear and feel the voice of Jah. The resurrection in the apocalypse was never like a literal corpse coming up out of a grave like in some kind of horror movie. This card is both personal and more. Part of the judgment is the effects of the example you set, which ripple out. If world peace with the United Nations organization, which is our last hope for world peace, is going to work, it must begin inside of each of us. Time will tell. The resurrection is a spiritual awakening. Will we be woke enough to ripple out into a better new era or a worse one? Each new generation's apocalypse since 2,000 years ago has failed to begin the millennium of peace. Is the apocalypse going to be the worst one ever? Or are we going to use the creative fires to build a better tomorrow for future generations? Are we going to deconstruct the old, out-of-date ideas that have made the past apocalypses fail? And rebuild through love, empathy, unity, inclusion, diversity, and the fires of temperance? See my video on the temperance card. Are we going to stop handling international matters as individual states and do everything through the United Nations instead? Putting secular, international morality and world citizenship as top priority before national? It all begins with the individual, you and I. Increased awareness and use of personal powers begins with a release from limiting thoughts and old belief systems. Not doing past mistakes, but learning from past mistakes. You need a desire to be transformed and to develop. The transformation from sleep to wakefulness is gradually accomplished. It is seated in the mindfulness of daily activities and comes to fruition in the birth of a new and expansive consciousness. The corresponding herb is goldensil, a powerful purifier of blood in the lymphatic system. May you and I hear the call of the angel. This card will support us when we do, in whatever form it comes. It will support desires to have greater awareness and a higher consciousness. See my video on the opening of the seventh seal. It's about how to meditate to learn the anatomy of ego. I will leave a link in the description. How will we build the new eon? One more thing. If you go to my Bible discussions playlist and scroll all the way down near the bottom, past the BS of the Bible parts, you will see the videos on spiral dynamics. They are not my videos, I'm not a psychologist, but spiritual dynamics are based on the works of a psychologist's work on developmental psychology, the different stages in maturing, the psychological stages, the red spiral, the blue spiral, the green, the yellow, etc. They are very Awakening. I recommend the blue spiral dynamics one. Many people today are of the blue spiral psychology.